afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Carrie Justick. Today, I'm sitting down with Cheslie Kryst, the full-time attorney and former Division I athlete who was crowned as Miss USA just last week. Now, with her platform, she's planning on elevating the work that she does with Dress for Success and her own fashion blog, White Collar Glam, where she empowers women to look their best while breaking the glass ceiling. Let's take a look at her crowning moment.
If for any reason the winner is unable to fulfill her duties, the first runner-up will take her place.
Good luck to you both. And now, Miss USA 2019 is North Carolina.
Congratulations, North Carolina! Take your first walk as the new Miss USA!
Give it up for Cheslie Kryst. I gotta say, I've seen that moment multiple times and I'm still beaming. Like it wasn't even me. I can't even imagine what it feels like to be watching that.
Yeah, I got butterflies just now, watching it all over again, just being back in that moment. But I was just saying just now, it's kind of funny. All you see is like my hair the entire time. You can't see my
you're
face.
incredible.
No reaction
incredible
shots.
hair.
It's just like a hair shot.
And then the crown, obviously.
Yes, and the crown, most importantly.
Which you've only worn during that one moment.
Yeah, that's the only time, because usually, during interviews like this, I really like to wear my sash, and the crown's very delicate, so I love, looking at it. And every morning it actually sits by my bedside, so I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually Miss USA, I won.
I feel like that's out of a movie. Like, I feel like that's what I would imagine for Miss USA, but the fact that you actually sleep with it next to your bed, that's really, really incredible.
First thing I see when I wake up.
So you just moved to New York.
Yes. NYC is my home now.
How are you liking it?
I love it. So I've visited New York City on many an occasion, but I never spent very much time here. A few days at a time. I was a Division I athlete in undergrad, and so we did a lot of indoor track and field meets at the Armory. So we'd be here, we'd visit, we'd shop, and always had a lot of fun here. So it's nice to move here and see more of the city.
That's amazing. So you just brought up that you were a Division I athlete.
Yep.
And of course, now you're an attorney. Mm-hmm. And now you're Miss USA. So there's a lot going on there. I want to know a little bit more about how and why you got involved with pageantry.
Yeah, so my mom was Mrs. North Carolina 2002. So she was crowned when I was around 10 years old or so. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to appearances with her and just being in awe of her and seeing the power she had by being a state title holder. She would sing the national anthem at events. She would go on speaking engagements. And I was always there as a little kid watching her. And it had a profound impact on me and my impression of pageant title holders, and I wanted to try my hand at it.
That's amazing. Thanks. And you also have mentioned that your mom was the second Black woman to win that title. Mm-hmm. And now I know people are so excited that yourself, Miss Teen USA, and Miss America are all Black women for the first time ever. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what that feels like and what you think it means for our country and the organization?
Yeah, so it's exciting to see trailblazers like my mom, and then to be able to become trailblazers like Miss America Nia and like Miss Teen USA Kaylee. And what's even cooler than that, I guess you could say, is that me and Nia are friends. We knew each other before. We're both from North Carolina. I'm her attorney. When she became Miss America, she asked me to become her attorney and help her with some contracts that she had to sign.
So cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. And so it's crazy that for me, what's important to remember is that empowered women empower women. My mom was there to support me. Nia was there to support me when I competed at Miss USA, and I was there for her whenever she needed me. And now I get to be there for Kaylee as our teen national representative.
Is something like this, like, because so many people are talking about it and they're talking about how there are these 3 strong Black women, like, does that sink in for you? Does it make you feel like you have any sort of extra responsibility, or does it feel pretty natural?
Well, what's surprising is I didn't even realize it until people started like tweeting about it and posting on Instagram about it. Because when I watched Kaylee get crowned, I knew that Nia had already been crowned, and then I was crowned, and I never sort of connected the two until afterwards, and I saw a bunch of posts. But I don't think that it changes anything for me. You know, as an attorney, I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and I took that very seriously, and I take my job as a representative in my community very seriously. So I can't say that being Miss USA makes me, you know, more strict or on what I'm doing, or makes me think more about being a representative, because I think my job before and my role before already required that.
I love that you make that comparison, because it's something that I think a lot of people wouldn't think about. Like, I think seeing even pictures of you in the courtroom is so cool and seems so different than seeing you on stage at a pageant.
Definitely pants.
Yeah.
A lot of pants in the courtroom.
Although I did want to say, I love that you wear your natural hair. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I also saw, scrolling through your Instagram, that you wear it naturally in the courtroom and at your job. And I know that throughout the country and other places, a lot of people experience pushback when it comes to that. And I wanted to know if you had any experience with that.
Definitely. It could be really scary. So I wrote about this on my blog. I have a blog called White Collar Glam, and it's about workwear fashion for women. And one of the articles I wrote was about wearing natural hairstyles in the workroom or in the workforce. And I remember when I graduated from Wake Forest, I was a little anxious and a little hesitant to wear my hair naturally. But I really had faith in my firm. The law firm that I work for now, I clerked for this law firm for 3 summers in a row, and I knew the people I was with, and I thought, if I'm going to wear my natural hair, it's going to be here where I feel comfortable and where I trust the people I'm around. And so I remember I thought, should I phase it in? Should I like start with a curly bun and then do half up, half down, and then in a month wear it out? And I was like, no, I'm going to give them a chance to be accepting. And so I did. I just wore my natural hair to work one day, and everybody loved it.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you had that experience.
Me too.
And like you said, obviously you had your mom to look up to, but now I'm sure there are tons of girls that are reaching out to you. What types of things are girls coming up to you and saying, and how do you internalize that?
Yeah, a lot of them are saying that they're excited about wearing their natural hair. Some of them are saying that they're looking forward to careers in the legal profession. And most importantly, I think the girls that reach out to me quite often say, you know, just thank you. Thank you for not giving up, and thank you for being unapologetic about what you wanted to do. I competed in the Miss America system for 2 years at Miss North Carolina, and then competed in the Miss Universe system for 3 years. And that's a lot of years of competing in pageants. But it gave me the experience that I needed to become Miss USA, and all of that was important. So I hope that girls out there understand that if you want to achieve something, keep working at it, and don't let failure deter you.
That's awesome. And of course, you have Dress for Success that you do a lot of work with, and like you said, your blog. So how does that message kind of intertwine with what your platform is?
Yeah, so what I experienced when I was in law school, I was once at a trial team tournament. We were at nationals, very important, obviously, and I brought 3 suits with me, and all of them were ruined all over a course of like 2 days. I had nothing to wear, and I found myself in an interesting predicament, being at a national tournament where I really needed to look good and not having anything to wear. Now, eventually we did win the national championship. We were the first trial team at my law school to win a national trial team national championship. But I didn't want anybody else to experience the adversity that I had. Adversity in not knowing where to buy clothes and not being able to afford very many clothes and figuring out how to tailor them and how to style them. So I started my blog so that I could give women resources so that they knew where to go and knew different price points and knew how to style clothing. And also started volunteering for Dress for Success, an organization that has a suiting program where they provide clothing to women who can't afford them for job interviews.
I love that you have this intersectionality of fashion and yourself as an attorney, because I feel like all my friends who either work in law or work in banks, like they don't know how to dress like themselves or dress fashionably while still being work appropriate.
Oh yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Well, when I was in law school, I took a class called Gender in the Law. We studied feminism, and I did a paper called Standards of Modesty, how they affect women more acutely than they affect men. And I wrote about, why women should be able to express themselves with their clothing. When I was doing research, I found that there was a survey. This is really interesting. There's a survey that found that 80% of senior managers surveyed said that a person's clothing can really affect whether or not they're promoted. Now, when we think about equality in the workplace, that's important. What you wear goes into whether or not you should get a promotion. So if we're thinking about, women advancing in the workplace, you have to know what to wear, and you have to make sure that it's appropriate. But my blog addresses that, how you can still be expressive and adventurous with your clothing without being inappropriate.
That really is so interesting. Because I know it's something that people think about and talk about enough. Well, maybe not enough. I think they think about it a lot, but there's not really anything to change that. But to give women an opportunity through organizations like Dress for Success is obviously huge.
Exactly.
And of course, you're talking about this research that you've done, and just watching you during the Miss USA finals, it was like, I was so inspired by the way that you were answering questions and even the information that you were able to pull from it, which I think comes from probably some of your experience as an attorney. So could you tell me a little bit about how that helped prepare you for Miss USA?
Oh, certainly. Because as an attorney, I get grilled all the time.
Yeah,
right?
you're like in the
All the
courtroom
time.
while
Yes,
you're up on that
yes,
stage.
Exactly. Because I'm a civil litigator, which means like I'm the attorneys that you think about when you think about like Law and Order. Like we're in the courtroom all the time, right?
I love that.
Same. So, but nowadays a lot of litigators, we aren't in the courtroom doing trials very often, but you're still there for hearings. So I may appear in front of a judge to argue a motion for summary judgment, which means like I have to know what opposing counsel is going to say. So I have to be able to see things from two perspectives, and I have to know how to convince somebody who I know almost nothing about, the judge, right? Because judges, you typically just don't know what a judge's viewpoint is. So I have to know all those things when I walk into a courtroom. But even when I'm not in the courtroom, I work in a law firm full of attorneys, and I'm a junior attorney, which means if I'm doing research, if I'm preparing a paper, I'm going to present it to a senior attorney, and they're going to ask me a lot of questions. How did you find that court ruling? Where is the court ruling? What's the language? Is that still good law? And all
I'm even
questions.
terrified and like, I don't really need to answer.
Right. That's like every day. That's like a typical day is like, wow, I'm getting grilled right now, and I just did this research. So I think that certainly prepared me for getting questioned and feeling the pressure while you're answering those questions.
Yeah, because I noticed even when you were answering, like it didn't seem scripted or anything. It was just kind of like you had this bank of knowledge. I was like, wow, this woman is legit.
Oh, thank you.
So what do you think made you stand out as a competitor? Because I'm sure there are points in the competition where you're like, okay, I don't have this. Like, she's amazing, she's amazing, she's amazing. Was there ever a moment where you were like, okay, yeah, I killed that, and I have maybe an edge above the rest? And what was that attributed to?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head. There were some incredible competitors. I mean, just in the top three, my first runner-up, she has a master's in accountancy. So I think what stood out the most was like, I was just being authentic and not apologizing for being me. I was worried about being an attorney and people thinking that I'd be boring. I was worried about wearing my natural hair and people thinking it was inappropriate for a pageant. But I just refused to apologize for any of that. And I just said, this is me, and this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be. So I think that probably helped some. Now, as far as like thinking that I was going to win, like you said, those girls were good. And at one point in time, like when we were competing in swimsuit, we usually compete with a sarong. It's like a little wrap that you'll wear around you. And there was a point at the stage where you're supposed to have the sarong off and in one hand. And so I was like, okay, I'm wrapping in the back. I'm practicing taking it off. And when I walked on stage, I'm tugging at it. And you can see it in the video. I think Vanessa Lachey actually comments and she's like, she can't get the sarong off. And in my head, I'm like, I can't get the sarong off. I was so worried. Yes, I was so worried. But, I was just glad that I made it to the top 10 and then 5 and then got a crown.
Good thing that sarong did not ruin your chances, because that would suck.
Yes, it would.
But I feel like that's what it is in pageants. Like, it's one, especially with so many women competing, like it really comes down to one thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like you said, I did feel very strong about my top 5 question and my top 3 question. What was important to me is like me and my mom, the day of finals that morning, I was talking to her and we were talking through some questions. And she said, I think you just need to take a breath, because if you just start talking and you don't gather your thoughts, you're not going to have any direction. And so I was like, you're right. So you can see in my top 5 and top 3 questions, I'd like the mic is in my face and all of a sudden I just take a breath and I'm like, what do I want to say? And then I answer, and I think that helped.
And you just mentioned the swimsuit competition. And so when I was looking through your Instagram, what I thought was really interesting, of course, is the interactions you have with fans. And a lot of girls were commenting on your muscular build and how they had the same body type, they felt really self-conscious. And I was wondering if that was something that you've ever experienced. And especially in the pageant world, I feel like there's a very specific standard of beauty that might be shifting a bit now.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like self-conscious? I mean, you were a freaking Division I athlete. Like,
well, I think you mentioned I was a Division I athlete. I think I started feeling self-conscious then. When I was an undergrad, I could squat almost 300 pounds. I could bench like 135 pounds. I was strong. I was really strong.
I love how you're just like spitting out these numbers. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, but because I worked out all the time, but I didn't feel very feminine when a guy would walk up to me and be like, my gosh, you're jacked. How much do you bench? And, it wouldn't make me feel feminine or attractive. And so that was something that I worried about and thought about. But, going back to me feeling authentic and confident in who I was, I just thought, like, this is my body build. I am athletic and I'm proud to be an athlete, and I'm not going to apologize for having muscles. So I just worked out and made sure that I was fit and was proud to walk out there in my swimsuit.
Yeah, you looked awesome and super confident, and I loved it.
Thank you.
And of course, going back to attorney, because this is what I'm always wondering. With a job like that, how do you then transition into a role like Miss USA? And like, what did you tell your colleagues? Were you able to take time off, and how did they receive that?
How? My law firm, Pointers Rule, is incredibly supportive. I mentioned that I interned for this firm for 3 summers in a row, and I'd competed in pageants over the summers, and they would give me the week off so that I could go compete, and then I would come back as an intern. So they had already known from the beginning that I competed in pageants. And when I won Miss North Carolina USA, they surprised me with a little party after I won with like a crown-shaped cake. It was so cute. So they already...
The law firms are fun.
Yes, yeah, mine is. I don't know about anybody else's, but mine's amazing. So they knew that I was competing. They gave me, plenty of time off so that I could, travel to Reno, Tahoe and compete at Miss USA. And after I won, I got tons and tons of messages, and they are just picking up where I left off and making sure that my clients are taken care of while I'm gone.
That's really, really incredible.
That's awesome.
And I know that you've talked about one of the things that you do is prison reform. And now we have somebody else working in prison reform, Kim Kardashian, and studying to be a lawyer. And it just came out today that she's gotten 17 people released in the past 90 days.
I've seen that number.
Something crazy like that. I wanted to get your take on this. I know you also work a little bit with the same lawyer that she works with.
Yes.
People have a lot of opinions about this, about the platform that she's given the cause, which is great, but people are also like, it took a celebrity to do this. And now the fact that she's going into law school, what's your take on that? Is there any like talk within the law firm of, oh, here's Kim Kardashian, or just people glad that she's doing this work?
I'm just glad that she's doing it. You mentioned people being almost discouraged that it took a celebrity to bring attention to this, but like there's attention on criminal justice reform. That's what matters. And people care. That's what matters. I think if Kim Kardashian wants to be an attorney, that's phenomenal. Like you mentioned that I've worked some with the attorney that she's worked with, Brittany Barnett. She and I are co-counsel on a pro bono case I've worked on in North Carolina. And for me, it is exciting to know that somebody is passionate enough about making sure that everybody receives justice, that they are willing to work with an attorney across the nation to make sure that these people get a fair shake. That is incredible, and she's to be commended for that.
And what, this just came to mind, what is the hardest part of your job in terms of working as an attorney? Because I feel like there are obviously so many challenges. And how did it prepare you for the pageant?
There are an incredible amount of challenges. I think probably the biggest hurdle is the bar. I'm licensed in 2 states, and
yeah, no big deal.
Oh my gosh. If there is a test that I took, I would say the hardest 2 tests that I had to take were first taking and passing the North Carolina bar, and and then taking in.
I was going to say the bar was so hard you decided to take it twice. I don't know who in their right mind would do that.
I did it for my firm. My firm is worth it. It's because, you know, my firm, we have offices just in North Carolina, and one of them, the one that I work in, sits in Charlotte, and Charlotte sits on the border of North and South Carolina. So we have South Carolina clients, and my firm said, you know, we have 3 other lawyers that are licensed in both states. They're partners. They need help. Would you like to take the bar again? And I said, sure. But I was glad. You know, I was glad to be able to be a resource for my firm, and it also offers me the opportunity to do additional pro bono work if I want to in South Carolina. So that is great to be able to have that in my back pocket, you know, if and when I'm done with, or when I'm done being Miss USA.
That's so awesome. Well, you have a year ahead of you. So, and you mentioned your runner-up and how she works as an accountant.
I don't know if she works as an accountant. I know she has her master's of accountancy.
Okay, so this is all just really, really incredible. Like, I feel like the fact that the women representing our country now and holding these titles are attorneys and have their masters and like incredible resumes.
Oh yeah.
Is this something that's like evolving in the organization, and where do you see it going?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know that women have become any more multidimensional than they first were. I think the focus of pageants has shifted. You know, at first, maybe early on, pageants were just focused on women's beauty and how well we could walk in a swimsuit. But now I think the Miss Universe organization has decided to really focus on the multifaceted women who compete in its organization. And, you know, you mentioned my first runner-up. We could go on for hours talking about the caliber of women who competed alongside me. Miss California, who works for Google, Miss Massachusetts, who has graduated from Harvard twice. My second runner-up, who was like me, a Division I athlete. Miss Nebraska, who was a Division I athlete. There are I could go on for days, and I think it's worth mention that these women are so accomplished. They're some of the most accomplished women I know, competing in pageants just to represent their respective states. That's powerful to me.
It's so crazy. I mean, I literally just said backstage, I was like, I feel like such an underachiever. If you went through the whole list, saved me.
It makes me, I'm like, God, what am I doing here? I should be out like saving people.
You're like, you sure I won?
Yeah, right? Yeah, I was just excited.
So what is ahead for you in the next year as Miss USA?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Dress for Success. It's really important to me, so I would love to continue advocating for the organization and making sure that women have the resources that they need. Beyond that, Miss USA is a full-time job, so I'm going to be traveling and going to appearances, and I'm thrilled for all of it.
I'm happy you're in New York for the summer, because that's the time to be here.
Oh yeah, I need to go shopping. I've never been to a Broadway play. Like, I really need to go. There's so many things that I need to do.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you need to do that.
Yes, I need to I have a bunch of food and restaurants I need to go to. I mean, there's a ton to do here. So I'm glad that I'm finally here and get to be Miss USA while I'm exploring this beautiful city.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So we have a Twitter question from Jada Samuel TV. Chesley, on the days where you don't feel like it or you've had enough, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think back to a few days where I'm just like, oh, I can't do this today. I think for me, I'm one of 6. I have 4 little brothers and an older sister, and I watched my mom raise all 6 of us while she had a full-time job and while she started her own business from a fold-up table in her bedroom, and has now become a partner in an incredibly successful business after her business merged with it. And seeing my mom work her behind off for years is incredibly motivating. And she provided for me and my siblings and has been an incredible inspiration to me. So I always think, if my mom can do it, I can do it. It's funny, I'll call her and she'll be on a flight somewhere, traveling somewhere to go speak somewhere, or she'll be starting a new business, or she's having a meeting with her employees. I mean, it's incredible. So I think she has been a shining example for me of what it is to be motivated and what it is to just keep going.
I love that. And I'm sure you're on quite the adrenaline rush still.
Yes.
It'll be quite some time until it all settles in.
Yeah.
And then we have 3 audience questions.
Great. Congratulations. After all this success, what is your biggest dream now as a Miss USA?
Oh, well, I think the next step for me is to compete at Miss Universe. That would be incredible to be able to represent, international, have an international kind of platform. So that's sort of my next step. And I'm excited to design my dress and design my national costume and really continue practicing for onstage question and everything that we have in front of us.
When does the designing the dress start and all of the process?
I mean, it's already in my head. So I'm already thinking and designing mentally. It's just a matter of getting it on paper and then,
here.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Next question.
Hi, I'm Mike, and this is Dominic. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
So we've talked to past title holders, and they've said that there's that moment when they realize they may take the crown. When was that moment for you, and what was running through your head?
I don't think it actually happened until they actually called my name. Because I felt really strong about how I answered the questions and everything. But I mentioned I competed twice in the Miss America system. I was first runner-up my second year. I competed 3 times in the Miss North Carolina USA competition, one on my 3rd try. So I knew what it felt like to lose. And I had accepted that. I feel very strongly in my faith, and I feel like God has a plan and a purpose for me. And I thought, whatever he has for me, I am okay and I'm happy with. And if that means I don't get to win today, then that's okay. And if that means I get to win, then that's great too. So really not until they were North Carolina and placing the crown on my head, was I'm Miss USA.
Well, you did it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And our 3rd and final question.
Hi, Cheslie.
Hi.
I was there in Reno Tahoe when you won. So I just want
Awesome.
to say congrats.
Thank
Watching
you.
you on stage, I was like, oh my God, she's going to win.
Thank you.
So I'm a fellow pageant girl. So I just wanted to know if you had one piece of advice for girls who are competing in the next pageant season, what would you give to them?
I would say be authentic. There were many times that I'd competed that I felt like I was telling the judges what I thought they wanted to hear. And I would see judges and I would think they probably want me to say this, or they work in this job, they're probably concerned with this. And there were so many times that I was wrong. And I think the painful part of that, the painful part of, catering to the people and thinking this is what they want to hear and then losing, is that the entire time you weren't being true to yourself. So I think whether you win or you lose, it feels best when you're just your true and authentic self. I decided to wear my hair natural. I decided to wear a very simple gown. And all of that felt very authentic to me. So if I didn't win Miss USA, I was just happy being out there and being able to show people who I was. So be authentic.
Thank you.
I love that. I feel like you can definitely tell too on stage. So
Thank you.
that's probably when you realized that she was a winner. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Cheslie. We're so excited to see what you do in this next year.
Thank you so much. Thanks, y'all.